All right, I'm going to start off by going over the Vikingprops Proton Pack first. A guy by the name of Will, who owns the company, he's the one that builds these. And I want to say that, first of all, the over appearance of the Proton Pack, it looked good. I mean, when I got it, I was very excited. Somebody that does not design these, that is a fan of the films, I was somewhat happy. It was only after a few months of having the pack that I started noticing things that really started to annoy me. And actually, it was earlier than that. The first big thing was right when I got it and I put the pack on. My wife noticed that the shell was put on at an angle. It was a slight angle, and if you really look at it, you'll see it every time. But other than that, it took a while for me to notice other things. But anyway, right off the bat there was an issue. The first thing is just basically the paint of the pack itself. Now again, overall, it looks nice. For someone who doesn't really care about details too much, I think this is going to be fine for you. But there were just little things. I mean, you're paying $1,500 for an item. To me, you should expect a little bit more craftsmanship in what happened. So the paint first, I want to go down here and just kind of have you notice here just the two white dots. Hopefully it's not overly blurry for you. It's dripping, and he didn't clean that up, which I'm kind of surprised, but he didn't clean it up. And throughout the pack, there's a lot of overspray. If you look at the four circles on the cylinder here, you can see there's overspray that's in the lights. Now, when I turn the lights on, it's very hard to see the overspray, but still, it's there. And that kind of annoyed me a little bit too, especially over here as well. I'm going to do the best I can without shaking here, but you can see right in the blue area, overspray. And there's like just little nicks in here and there. I mean, on the stem too. I thought this was going to be an actual stem, and it's really just all a plastic shell. I mean, everything pretty much is plastic, except for little things here or there, like the hoses and whatnot. He does have some brass fittings, which looks nice. There are some screws, but mostly things were put on by hot glue. Now, again, I'm not a maker of these, and maybe that's how it's done. I don't know. But I just wasn't a big fan. What I was paying, what I thought I was getting, what his pictures show, I was expecting a little bit more. The other thing as well is, and you can even check this on Ghostbuster Fans site, don't just take my word for it, but a lot of people that have bought Proton packs from Vikingprops have mentioned the same thing, and that is the distance from the shell to the actual board. And I'm going to bring it down here so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. This is just a section here, okay? In fact, if I put this up, you can actually see inside where he's got actual, I think it's like wood screws that are holding on the Alice frame. Of course, all the wiring and stuff from what he did. But, yeah, I mean, for what you're paying for, I just wasn't a big fan of that. But, I dealt with it. So at any rate, that was another thing, too. I'm going to bring before I get to the Neutrino one, I want to bring this up so you guys can see behind it another issue I had with the pack. And that was where the batteries go. You notice the batteries are sticking right out of there, especially the wires to the 9-volt battery. The 9-volt runs all of the lighting, and the batteries cover the sound. So that's how that works. But I was always concerned that when I take the pack on and off, that I would somehow, hit that wiring. And I just thought he could have done a better way of hooking up maybe a box or something to at least cover the wires. So, that was just another little thing that I had an issue with the pack. Now, again, these are just my own personal issues that I have with the pack, and it may not be a concern for you. And if that's the case, more power to you. But, it was just little scuff marks and stuff. I just wasn't a big fan. Now, I did ask for it to look weathered, and that's where the silver paint, my understanding and my communication with him throughout the process, was that's what was giving it its weather and usage of the pack. But, again, it's just, I just think his painting needs a little bit of work. But at any rate, so that's on the pack. I will say that it does light up beautifully. I do think, the lights work very well. And everything is controlled by the Neutrino wand. What I like about it is this one switch here, you press up, and it turns everything on. And so I like the fact that there's not like a switch in the back that you have to turn on and then put the pack on and then run it from there. So I do like everything is running from the Neutrino wand. That's a really nice feature. However, the sound is really low. I don't know if you noticed when I turned it on, that's as loud as it gets. I'm going to turn on the Ghostbuster theme. Now, I'm in a garage, and I'm hoping you can hear it, but this is as loud as it gets. I mean, can you imagine if you're at a, cosplay or party or whatnot, you're going to barely hear this. All the talking going on, it's like you have to tell people to be quiet so they can actually hear the sound of the pack. And do I necessarily blame Vikingprops for that? No. I mean, I think he's going off the specs like most people do when they're building these things. But I think, to kind of add value to this pack, it would be a nice feature to have a way of amplifying the sound. And that's one thing I like about Bob's Props pack, is because they do have that. And when I go to that pack, you'll see what I mean. One thing that is confusing is these two switches right here. Now you see Intensify and Activate. Now I may be the only person here, but Intensify should sound like that. That's the Activate button I just pressed. Okay? And then you turn up to stop it. Intensify is that. To me, that's the active. That should be the Activate sound. Or he should switch where you have like another sound to give it something different. Now, you may say, well, if it's turned on and you press Intensify, it's going to do something different. No, it doesn't. All it does is cut the sound off. And again, the Activate button is still up, so you have to turn it off to restart it again. So that was one thing I didn't like about it. Also, you notice the buttons that he installed are angled. And I think that should have been a Craftsman feature he should have caught when he was making this. Now, I will say the Neutrino wand is heavily made. It's really durable, which I do like. I'm not sure how he made it, but it's not a plastic piece, which I do like that feature. That's pretty much about it about the Neutrino wand. I mean, it does light up. All of the insignia and stuff that you're seeing on there, the warning signs and stuff, it's like from an inkjet printer. I'm not really sure what he used. I don't want to demean that because I don't know for sure. But I tell you, they're not highly made. They're not highly made stickers. Okay. This one consistently comes off. It's been coming off since I've gotten it. The other thing, too, is that this doesn't extend out electronically. You have to hand do it, and it's even sticky. I'm trying to do it with one hand to show you. Okay, and then you have to, manually put it back in. Some that I've seen online, for about the same price as a pack, that's automatic. So I'm not sure exactly why he didn't do that. But at any rate, that's the pack. I'm trying to think if there's anything else specifically that I had concerns with the pack over the course of me owning it. But that's about it. Now, I'm not sure why exactly it is. There it goes. Okay, sorry about that, guys. I know it was kind of getting fuzzy there. But anyway, that's on the pack itself. So just to kind of recap, it was some painting issues, stickers, the Neutrino wand, mishaps with the switches, the sounds being very low, it not coming out manually, the end of the Neutrino wand, the way that the pack sits angled. I don't think he did it deliberately. Maybe he was rushed, maybe he didn't see it. I'm not really sure. But at any rate, that's it. Nothing else on this pack moves, functions. Everything is operated by the Neutrino wand, and that is it. Now, I want to say some things about the communication of Will at Vikingprops. Now, I'm not going to compare him to a major business because I think, Video Bob The guy has some high-priced clients, very high-end clients. They expect good service, and that just comes with it. And he makes some great, he does some great stuff other than just proton packs. This is pretty much all Will does, I think. He does makes some other Ghostbuster items. But I think it's just a one-man show. I could be wrong. I don't, my last conversation with the guy didn't end it too well. But I wanted to stick this on a business point, not a personal point. But it took 6 months to get the pack. Originally, it was supposed to take 8 weeks. That's what he gave me. Now, just as a consumer, if you own a business, you're selling to somebody and you tell somebody something's going to be, it's your responsibility to communicate with the seller in case something happens. And it just seemed like I was the one that was fishing for information. Will never he did respond when I emailed him, but he didn't, I had to be the one that was always constantly saying what's going on, what's happening, blah, 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 just to try to figure out what was going on. And there really was no excuse. There was really no main reason. It wasn't like he was missing parts or anything like that. It was just taking longer. His answer to me is, it's a custom-made item and it takes a while to make. Well, I understand that. But, I was given a time frame. And I think 6 months is just a little too long. Now, I'm not the only one. If you go on, the Ghostbusters fan site, you'll see that Will often gets attacked by his delay of delivery. And his communications are rather vague. And, he even admitted, I will give him credit. He even admitted that into his email to me that he needs to work and improve that. So I will give him credit on that. But, overall, it's a $1,500 including shipping, proton pack. And if the details I mentioned, it doesn't really matter to you, then go for it. I'm going to go into Bob's next. It is a more higher-end pack. And I'm going to actually explain to you the reason behind the cost and all that other stuff. And, just keep in mind, though, that when you are looking at both packs, I think you got to add in your priorities and, of course, your cost levels. But when you're ordering a Vikings prop, I'm just wanted to give people an understanding of what they might get. And that I'm not just going on a rant. I'm just letting you know you're seeing the product. I've shown you the product. And a lot of people are saying the same thing about his proton packs. But again, if it's your cup of tea, then more power to you. I know you'll be happy with what you get because of what you've seen here today and what you know to expect. But at any rate, this is just my review on the Vikingprops, and this is part 1. Part 2, we'll be going over Bob's, and then I'll give you my final thoughts from there. I'll see you in part 2.